John Keeley for OFB TV, coming to you from Kettler Capital's Iceplex on a historic day. Day one of the Dale Hunter era. The Capitals today firing Bruce Boudreau and replacing him with Capitals legend Dale Hunter. Joining me for the discussion, Ted Starkey, good friend of OFB, Ed Frankovic, WNST at Baltimore, and Dave Nichols with an exciting new project, the Capital Sports Page. District Sports Page, excuse me. All right, guys, we have a lot of viewers, a lot of new people following the Capitals in recent years. One of the advantages of being a veteran blogger with gray and receding hairlines is we can actually remember what it was like to watch Dale Hunter wear the red sweater and play in DC. I want to go to each of you. Let me start with Ted. Just share some reflections about what you remember seeing Dale Hunter, the legend, playing for the Capitals.
So remember, he was brought in 1987. The Caps had always had trouble getting out of the first round of the playoffs. Back then, the Patrick division was really tough. But his first year here, obviously one of the best moments in Capitals history was the overtime goal against Philadelphia. He was a tough player, didn't take any nonsense, and he would always, was a good offensive player to begin his career here, kind of waned down, but became a little bit more of a gritty player as his career progressed. But obviously, Mike Knuble called him Mr. Capital today. That's probably a pretty appropriate name.
Ed, what do you remember?
Well, obviously, the goal against the Flyers, Game 7, 1988, Patrick Division semifinals, to cap the 3-1 comeback on Ron Hextall. You can argue that that's the best goal in Capitals history. I would certainly say that. Dale was just a guy that would bring it every night. Every game when I was working for the team, during my time working for the team, he was here for those 10, 12 years. Every game I go down and give him his face-offs, and he would know exactly whether he was good or bad. So that tells me right there's a guy who knows what he's doing, knows what's going on in the game and the effort. He brought it every night. He'd be in the scrum. He'd fight somebody if he had to. He had some legendary bouts with Ron Francis when he was with Pittsburgh. Dale's just a guy who brought it.
Dave, what do you remember?
Obviously, casual hockey fans across the NHL are going to remember his hit on Pierre Turgeon, triggering what at the time was the longest suspension in NHL history. But for Capitals fans, all you have to do is look over our shoulders and see when he was in this franchise. He's part of the Mount Rushmore of the Washington Capitals, and he's back in the fold. He's back home now. I asked him during the press conference earlier, do you feel extra pressure because your mural's up on the wall, your numbers hanging from the rafters? And he kind of indicated, no, the pressure is that he's now representing the Washington Capitals.
Yeah. Guys, tough for me, the word tough, as it applies to a hockey player, is at times a euphemism for dirty. And I remember Dale Hunter being, frankly, a dirty hockey player, but we liked it because he was our dirty hockey player. It's going to be very interesting to see what he instills in his team beginning tomorrow night. Now, I think we should reflect a little bit on the Bruce Boudreau era. I heard in the locker room just now a lot of Capitals acknowledging a lot of responsibility for things not working out. Again, general reflections, 4 years here in DC, he got his dream. It was, I've called it a Horatio Alger kind of story. What did Bruce Boudreau mean to you?
I think what he did is Glenn Hanlon took the team as far as he could when Bruce came in 2007, and Bruce probably took this team as far as he could. I mean, I think he brought in the offensive system. I think the problem was lately, I don't think the players really wanted to play the more defensive style, and you see a lot of players buck the trend and just, kind of not give the effort they need to make it work. But Bruce took this team from they were a terrible team, quite frankly, the first 2 years under Glenn. He brought them, he won the President's Trophy. He got the amazing rally in 2007, 2008, and returned this team to the playoffs. And he's a good coach, and he'll end up with a team very quickly, I think. The time had come. I mean, it was like, it reminds me of Ron Wilson's tenure here. He's a very good coach, but I think his time just ran out.
George McPhee this morning talked about a room basically tuning out a coach. And it's not a reflection necessarily of the individual coach, but 4 years, maybe the message got stale. But he also said hockey is such an emotional sport, and every night you're going in there making an emotional appeal, and 4 years is just a long time, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've seen the Brian Murray to Terry Murray to Jim Schoenfeld to Ron Wilson switch. It's going to happen in sports. The Lindy Ruffs are exceptions to the rule. And Bruce Boudreau did a lot here. 4 years ago, there was barely anybody covering this team, and now we can't even get close to anybody in here covering. This locker room is packed. There's media. There's bloggers. Hockey is on the map in DC, so I think a lot of credit needs to go to Bruce Boudreau for bringing out the best in these players for a good portion of his 4 years.
Dave, what's the Bruce Boudreau legacy in Washington?
That's a good question. You've got the 12-game winning streak that he had, and obviously, just the popularization of hockey in DC. Like Ted alluded to, he took a team that was struggling very mightily led them to the playoffs that year, won the Jack Adams Trophy. For me personally, the events of say the last season, starting mid-season last year to this season, for me personally, I believe that Boudreau had let the media, presumably the Canadian media, change the way he coaches hockey. He changed from the all-out offensive style that he used his entire career to this hybrid that he called it of playing defensively responsible, and it just the team didn't respond as Ted alluded to. It's ultimate failure because he didn't win a Stanley Cup, but he did a lot for this program. He did a lot for this organization. He did a lot for the city of hockey here in DC.
All right, let's wrap up here real quick. I'm going to share with you what most excites me about this appointment, and I invite you to do the same. I have wondered for a couple of years now what it would be like to take that room full of millionaires that frankly had underachieved,
Right.
and to stick in front of them day after day, practicing the games. A guy who wore the crest, a guy who wore the C, a guy who laid it out on the line on Tuesday nights, in all over the country in the middle of the season when it's really tough. I'm looking forward to that same guy with gray in his hair saying, I brought it for this crest. I went to the Stanley Cup Finals. I've got something to say that I think we should listen to. What do you think?
I think, this team has to really adjust their accountability because, frankly, ever since the 7-game winning streak, this team has not responded. They're not playing more than 20 to 30 minutes of hockey a night. And I think, obviously, it'll be an interesting experiment because there are a couple Bruce loyalists back in the locker room, and, there's going to be a couple of people who didn't want Bruce to be around anymore. And you might have a little bit of a divide, and it'll be interesting to see which side wins out.
I like the word you use, experiment. I think it is an experiment. This is another coach that doesn't have big league experience, doesn't have American league experience. It's an experiment, but it's one that I welcome. We've never seen a guy, an alumnus, come in and take charge of this team. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Ed, what are you looking forward to see?
Well, Dale Hunter is a man of few words, but they were very meaningful. And it was pretty clear when I talked to Carl Alzner and Nick Backstrom in that locker room. They got that across very quickly. I have a long history with Dale Hunter. I worked for the team while he was here. Talked to him after every game, and I actually texted someone, a member of this organization, was a coach here, is now a scout in the NHL. I said, how do you think Dale's going to do? Is he going to do well? And he says, of course he will. So that's a guy who worked with Dale Hunter every day and knows Dale Hunter. I think it's more than an experiment. I think Dale Hunter will have a lot of success here.
Dave, any thoughts about what excites you most about this new era?
Yeah, it's interesting that you speak about Dale Hunter, the type of player he was, and we spoke about it earlier today. I don't know if that element is here on the roster in Washington. I find it fascinating to see if somebody tries to take that role on, or if they go out and try to find a player that's got a little bit of grit, a little bit of face wash to him, somebody that doesn't mind sticking the blade of a stick in the goaltender's stomach on the way through.
We saw a few face washes from Dale, didn't we, over the years?
We certainly did.
It's a great observation. Well, guys, thanks for joining me on this. And fans and followers, the Dale Hunter era is upon us. It's exciting. We're looking forward to bringing it to you at OFB, and looking forward to talking with more bloggers and following the rest of the season. For OFB TV, John Keeley, we'll see you at the rink.